Traveling the Vortex.
We've joined Mr. Collins as he eats scones during a zombie apocalypse. And it's episode number 294. I'm Keith.
I'm Sean.
It's Patron Collins, and then what they came
Parsons.
No, that's not right. He was a Parsons, but he kept correcting people saying Patron or something like that.
I thought he kept saying Parsons.
And I kept, because I thought it was weird, because I said, why isn't he saying Parsons? He's a Parsons. I swear that he said something different. I'm Glenn.
How are you guys?
I'm good.
Pop it in. Let's find out what he said.
Yeah.
You guys have a good week?
Yeah. I couldn't for the life of me remember what I did this week. I did get a movie in this week, though. So
what'd you watch?
That was good. Holly and Caitlin and I last night watched Maze Runner Scorch Trials.
What did you think?
Well,
have you read the second book yet?
Here's the thing. I've been putting it off because I wanted to read the book first, and Holly finally said, yesterday morning she says, is either the next Maze Runner movie or the next Divergent movie available for streaming on some service we already pay for, so we don't have to pay for it? And I said, yeah, I think...
It's amazing how specific they have to get now, isn't it?
So I think something is, and I couldn't remember which one it was. So I got on HBO and I found that one, and I thought, well, okay. I was holding off on both of those because I haven't read the book, and I wanted to read the book before, but I thought, of the two, I think I'd rather definitely read the Divergent one, Allegiant, before, and Maze Runner, so it was kind of the lesser of two evils, and I went, yeah, okay, we'll do Maze Runner, and it was available, so it worked. It was good. It was really good. Better than I expected, and I thought it might have even been slightly better than the first Maze Runner movie.
I think so, too.
Really? Holly and Caitlin disagreed, but they enjoyed it. And then Mason and I watched, I think we just watched one more episode. We've got the this is kind of set up I think it's a 3-part finale. I think we still have 2 episodes left. This one kind of left on a cliffhanger, so.
Of
Rebels. Didn't I say Rebels?
I don't think you did.
Oh.
I knew what you were going with.
I
did said
too,
Mason and you.
Rebels, yeah. So we got that done. Caitlin's birthday this week. Took her out to lunch, and that's pretty much it. It's been Olympics all week, so I've been late at work.
I watched. I'm a little almost to the end now of season 5. We've dealt with Maul
Of what?
of Clone Wars.
Fairabouts fair play.
See how that works. We've dispatched with Maul, and I just did the one where they did the bombing at the Jedi Temple, and Osaka's been blamed for offing
Ahsoka?
Osaka.
Osaka. All right.
He just flip-flops the vowels.
Padawan. She's been blamed for offing the bomber, that was a good episode. And we finished Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 3, so I am current. Thoroughly enjoyed it. I think it's fallen off a little bit from the high that we had in Season 2, my humble opinion, now that I can talk about it, but still enjoyed it. And then we took the kids out and saw The Jungle Book at the Cheap Theater.
We went to see that, too.
Did you really?
Yeah.
What'd you think?
I liked it.
I did, too.
I had issues with it, but then I did some Googling, and I came away with my issues okay.
I wasn't quite sure what to expect. The trailer looked pretty good. So I was like, okay, Jungle Book, And Katrina and I had just watched the animated Jungle Book within the last, month or so. So we went to this and just had a great time with it. It was a lot of fun.
I also watched Mr. Peabody and Sherman before it dropped off Netflix.
That was good.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
It's cute.
Speaking of my birthday, I got a few gifts. One of which from Glenn is...
Were we speaking of your birthday?
I did.
Oh, well, happy birthday.
Thank you. Doctor Who FAQ. FAQ. I'm used to an S, so facts. FAQ. All that's left to know about the famous Time Lord in the universe. It's a book that looks
I'm going to call shenanigans on that book.
It focuses primarily on the American success of Doctor Who, which is a fascinating angle to explore. I'm really looking forward to getting into that. And
There's a whole chapter on the TV movie.
There better be. There better be more than a chapter. And then Munchkin, Tim Burton's Nightmare Before Christmas game, which I've never played Munchkin before, so I've always wanted to play, but never knew where to jump in.
Sort of feel like maybe we ought to have him play a game of Munchkin first, so we can appreciate the dynamic of it. So.
Yeah, well, I've got Star Munchkin. So
I love Star Munchkin. That was my favorite of the Munchkins.
And some Topps Doctor Who trading cards. So thank you for that, Glenn.
You're welcome.
Other Who things I got the Night of the Doctor action figure. I saw the pictures online, but hadn't seen one in person. They did such a good job sculpting his face.
Oh, the Paul McGann one.
Paul McGann. Yeah, sorry, the Paul McGann.
Okay. No,
Night of the
I
Doctor.
figured that's where you're going with it, but yeah, I wanted to make sure.
He looks so good. Like you've seen the other like Paul McGann with the long hair and the frock coat, and how the face doesn't quite look right. This face is perfect.
Oh, good.
Yeah, it's really good.
Speaking of Night of the Doctor, just an aside, and maybe we mentioned this when we talked about the Blu-ray, I saw on the specifics that we posted that Night of the Doctor
is that a bonus feature?
Yeah, it's a bonus
feature. I did not know that.
So now I'm really, really hoping that they release that in
so you can
Region
have 2
1.
copies of Night of the Doctor.
Yeah, well, do I have a copy of it? Is it on the Day of the Doctor?
It's on Day of the
disc?
Doctor.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
well, I wasn't sure because I've only watched Day of the Doctor on there, I assumed, but... Yeah, I don't know. Well, I watch Night of the Doctor online because it's still posted online. So whenever I get the need to
This
watch it,
is what happens when you miss out on Friday Night Who, because every time we've done Day of the Doctor,
you watch
always,
Night first.
Or before or after.
Okay.
Depending on
It's
how much
always in
time
there.
you've got.
Well, and the other thing, I guess, maybe since we're updating that, although we're not quite to news yet, we did find out that it is an up-converted version. And I did a little digging because
tell your
actually,
story.
Dr. Phil had pointed out that it was a up conversion when I was looking at the things. I noticed that myself, but I did some digging around, and there's a lot of, I mean, it's internet talk. There's a lot of there's a lot of discussion that leads back to kind of the same thing, which makes me believe that it's probably true. Apparently, obviously, it was shot on film, but what they did is they cut it. What they do is they would then put it on video cassette in order to do the editing, because it was easier to run the cassette without having to splice video or splice film and things like that. Must have still been pretty primitive in the 1990s. I don't know. It seemed like it'd be pretty easy, but so that they were having to down convert it to 4:3 ratio anyway. So what they did is they put that all on tape so they could edit it and make it easier to edit, because it was going to have to go out on video tape anyway to whoever's broadcasting, Fox and BBC. And so it sounds like that. Now, Universal hasn't said what they've done with that original footage, but a lot of speculation and even some pretty good authority that all that film was scrapped. Because when they were done with it, they had the copy they needed. And so that's why, even if it wasn't all scrapped, you can't put little pieces back together because you'll get a jump in quality. So that is why it's being up-converted. However, I haven't seen any of the Blu-rays of the new series from Series 1 to Series 4, but I've heard they look fantastic in the upscale conversion. So if they do the same thing with this, I'm sure it'll look great. It just won't be an actual high-def film version.
So, technically, we can add Doctor Who the movie to the lost episodes because it was in fact junked.
The original prints.
And all we have is VHS copies.
Interestingly enough,
VHS
all of that stuff that they're recovering is film, which was not originally shot on film, which is the exact opposite. It was converted to film so they could sell it overseas, and when they've recovered them, they've recovered film, and they've put them. Luckily, they put them through a vidfire process, which actually converts it back to the at least look that they had as on video. So it's funny that we're going the other direction.
And they have said that right now there are no plans for a U.S. release. I saw, according to TV shows on DVD.com.
Tweet me back and answer me. I tweeted to BBC Worldwide, and BBC directly said, please, 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 release this on Region 1.
Should we start a letter writing campaign?
Yes, let's do it. We don't even need a letter writing campaign. We'll just get on one of these petition.org, change.org, whatever.
There might already be one.
Yeah, there might. We'll get started on that.
Let's get on that. We'll put that on the burner for this week and see what we come up with. I'd love to be able to say, yeah, we were responsible for getting that on Blu-ray in the States.
Sorry,
Unless Zavi has a really cool steelbook.
I didn't mean to derail the
no.
conversation of what we did this week. So
I think the only major thing I did this week was I went to Kansas City Comic-Con.
Ah,
How was it?
It was about the same as last year.
that's unfortunate.
I saw a number. They said they had over 10,000 people.
Oh, that's
up.
good.
Oh, that's good.
I don't know if that's a success for them or not.
I'm
but
so
it's-
used to Planet Comic-Con that it seems so small in comparison. I mean, it's still not fully taking up the first year that Planet Comic-Con was in that same amount of space, because they're not extended beyond where they were that first year. And they're still not quite using the space. It's more spacious, so that's kind of nice, but I don't know if that's why it felt like there's less people. But we did bump into Kirk and Kelly, so it was great to see them. I got some James Hans prints.
I say, did you get an autograph or two? Or
No
just,
autographs.
No autographs.
Since Julian Glover had to cancel, and there wasn't anyone I wanted an autograph from. So, I had forgotten James Hans was there. The main reason why we went was Mike wanted to go, Sarah's brother, and Audie was going to go too, but he decided last minute that he wanted to play with the kids next door instead. So
Ought to be young.
yeah. So we still went up because Mike's been collecting the Star Wars pop figures, so he likes to go hunt for those. And
Is that where you found your Flash Gordons?
No, actually, I got those for my birthday from my dad.
Oh.
Yeah.
So they're here in town somewhere.
He might have got them from Amazon because they were on my wish list. But we did get 3 James Hans Wookiee the Chew, Chewie the Wook.
Wookiee the Chew.
Wookiee the Chew.
I think you're right. Yeah.
Wookiee the Chew prints. If you haven't seen those, I posted it to my Instagram and my Facebook. It's adorable. It's a mashup of Winnie the Pooh and Han and Chewie. It's just really adorable. And he had some really good Doctor Who stuff that I was tempted by, but my love of Star Wars and Winnie the Pooh won out. Did you do anything else, Sean? I kind of hijacked your...
No, you're fine. That was pretty much all. Well, we went to Schlitterbahn today and got sunburned. Yay.
Well, should we move on to news?
Let's move on to news. You got it right this week.
Did you hear the Doctor Who, the movie's coming out on Blu-ray? But not here.
And not on film.
Time Eddy has announced that Mark Strickson has unfortunately had to cancel his appearance at the convention this year. He really hopes to be able to make it next year. And in addition, Nabil Shaban will no longer be able to make it this year. That he played Syl in 2 stories from the classic series. But as a replacement, they have added Waris Hussein, the director of the very first story of Doctor Who.
Hey.
Super excited by this.
Yes. That's very exciting. If you haven't yet, go get your tickets, and you can get a discount by entering the code Vortex in your cart. There's also a discount that you can get on the Lethbridge Stewart line until the end of September. Type in Epic LS30, and you can use that on any Lethbridge Stewart title on the Candy Jar website.
That's all one word?
All one word.
All one word.
And you get 30% off.
30% off? That's a heck of a deal.
Yeah. So if you haven't yet picked those up, now's the time.
And that goes till the
end of September.
Okay, and then the Vortex code goes till September 1st for Time Eddy tickets, right?
Let me double check that.
Pretty sure that's what he said.
So we're bringing you the discounts.
That's right.
Because we're awesome.
That's right.
Yep, until the 1st of September.
And we want to thank our friends at Candy Jar Books for extending that code to get discounts for our listeners. We also want to thank Time Eddy for extending their discount code for our listeners as well.
Absolutely. That's it for news.
Can we move on to feedback?
We can, but we don't have any.
Aww.
Remember, you can send us feedback at feedback@travelingthevortex.
In case you forgot.
If that's why you haven't sent it in, now you have no excuse.
It's because we're reviewing stuff that's not Doctor Who. We're almost done, folks. We're almost done.
I got a little birdie that we might be getting some next week for the Macro Terror.
Oh.
So, no pressure there, Kirk.
Did the little birdie tweet at you?
Nope.
Oh.
Told him in person, apparently.
Told me in person. Also on our website, send us feedback. And then, of course, reach out to us on Facebook and Twitter, at Travel Vortex on Twitter, Traveling the Vortex on Facebook.
All right, well, let's move on to what we came here to talk about this week. And
Sorry, I guess you
that's
need that.
this month's Beyond the Doctor.
Pride and Prejudice and Zombies. A zombie outbreak has fallen upon the land in this reimagining of Jane Austen's classic tale of the tangled relationships between lovers from different social classes in 19th century England. Feisty heroine Elizabeth Bennet is a master of martial arts and weaponry, and the handsome Mr. Darcy is a fierce zombie killer, yet the epitome of upper-class prejudice. As the zombie outbreak intensifies, they must swallow their pride and join forces on the blood-soaked battlefield in order to conquer the undead once and for all.
That's a terrible prescription, but okay.
Prescription?
Prescription.
You shouldn't take this for stuff, Sean.
Dun, dun, dun.
I'd give it about that much. Dun dun dun.
Yeah.
It was.
Here we go.
I'll fess up. I was even a champion of putting this on the schedule, but it was because I knew there was some Matt Smith in this, and you guys had brought it up, and Keith seemed anxious to see it, and so
I was going to see it no matter what.
Yeah, put this on the schedule. But in the back of my mind, I kept going, I'm sure I'm not going to like this, because this is, I mean, come on. And so I probably never would have watched this on my own, but now having seen it, it was a fun movie. In fact, I got to the end of it, and I got to the end of it, and I thought, wow, okay, that kind of hit all the nice notes, and it didn't. Here's what's brilliant about it, is it still keeps all of the charm of the 19th century, all of that charm, all of the reality of it, all of the language of it, all of the
Pride and prejudiceness of it.
Yeah, all of the Pride and Prejudiceness of it. But it puts zombies into the mix. But what it doesn't do is it doesn't just slam zombies in to make it a zombie film. They rework the story, and it works. And I got done with this thing, and I thought, wow, that was a surprising treat. And so I went off to the internet and go, surely people liked this. It's got a 47% Rotten Tomato rating on it.
I didn't go check there.
And I think that's that's not even the critic score. I don't think. Maybe that was the critic score, but the user score isn't any much better. And I thought, why do people not like? I didn't read any of the reviews because I thought I'd just get depressed. But why didn't people get? I mean, I thought it was at least a 50-50 film. I give it a little higher, but I thought at least it would have come in at 50%. But no, I mean it's just under 50%. But it was an okay film. It was,
and it only grossed 10 million, and it cost $28 million to make. So that end bit setting up a sequel.
I actually am pleased.
I don't want a sequel.
Well, because that was the one thing it didn't do, is it didn't end like a zombie film for me, and I went, oh, that's where's the All Hope Is Lost ending? Oh, there it is. Okay. Take care of it. So I was actually grateful that they did that, and I know that was a coy way to set up a sequel, but I didn't want one, and I thought, oh no, this works both ways. They could make a sequel out of it, and maybe I'd watch it. But
the 47% is the audience score.
That's the audience score. So
the critics had a 42.
42. I knew they were both in the 40s. So, what'd you guys think? I mean, of the movie overall. Not we'll drill down to Matt Smith, who's the best part of this.
I have
movie,
a bit of a confession. I've never seen or read Pride and Prejudice.
Same confession.
I feel like I don't need to now because I've seen this. She's got a lot of pride. He's very prejudiced. And they overcome that to fall in love.
You know, ironically, that they talk about a reimagining, and then it really is. Now, I have never read Pride and Prejudice. I think Holly had. She's read it several times. But I saw the movie with Keira Knightley.
Okay.
And it really...
I mentioned to Sarah should we watch that? And she said, no, we have to watch the Colin Firth version. I said, that's 5.5 hours. I'm not watching that.
It really does parallel the story. It does hit the same beats, and the storytelling is essentially the same trappings and things like
Yeah,
that. So.
yeah, it's the same ideas.
Here's to add to your confession. I've tried to read.
I haven't tried reading it, knowing I wouldn't be able to get through it.
It's Jane Austen. It's a classic. According to Clara, she's a great kisser. Okay, I'm going to give this a shot. Actually, this was well before Clara said anything about her. I cannot get into it. I tried and tried and tried and tried. I could not. Just a little bit. A friend of mine gave me the book Pride and Prejudice and Zombies, just thinking it would be something that I would be into, not in any way correlated to anything. And I went, oh, okay. And I read it. Mostly.
Meaning you didn't finish it? Or?
Meaning apparently I didn't finish it, because as I was watching this, I went going, okay, I remember this. Okay, here's this part. The scene where she has the conversation with the dude in the garden when they go off to meet Lady Catherine.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Bingham or whatever his name is, and she has all the way up till that I remembered. Nothing after that was familiar, so I think that's about where I finally petered out and went, I don't care anymore. Even the addition of zombies does not make this palatable to me. I'm sorry. I'm sure that there's a reason it's considered great literature. I don't get it.
I think you then regifted the book to me.
I might have.
And you're down in some downsizing, and I haven't read it either. It's on my shelf. And Sarah has a copy of Pride and Prejudice, but she hasn't read that either.
Let me know if you ever get to it. So, yeah, well, I try.
If we do a book club, Holly could probably lead it, because like I say, she's read it probably at least 4 times. She loves Pride and Prejudice. It's one of her favorite Jane Austens.
I just don't get it.
Is Sense and Sensibility Jane Austen too, or is that a Bronte?
Let me check.
The guy that reimagined this
is doing Sense and Sensibility and Zombies?
Sense and Sensibility and Sea Monsters.
No.
That is a Jane Austen. It's a book. It's not a movie.
It needs to be a movie.
I know.
Well,
it should, because unfortunately, that's just it. They shouldn't have done. They shouldn't have never even decided they were going to do a sequel to this. They should have said, "Then we're going to do Sense and Sensibility and Sea Monsters."
Who knows? Maybe it's still in the pipe.
I doubt it.
I doubt it.
Not losing that much money on this one.
I kept reading it and kept reading it, going, I don't care. You guys should really just get over this and hook up. This unrequited love thing where you just, yeah, but he's prideful and she's, or vice versa. It's like, I don't care. I just don't care.
That's what I liked about the movie, though, is it's still there. I liked that storyline in the movie.
Yeah, well, maybe that was it. Maybe, honestly, maybe that's the problem. Maybe I need to go and watch Pride and Prejudice now. Because
to appreciate those bits.
Maybe
those were my least favorite bits of the movie too.
But maybe it's just that. Maybe it's if I see it visually, because I didn't mind it, even knowing what was going on. Just the look or this and that, that they would put it. Maybe it just makes it more of a visual story for me.
That could be.
That would help things immensely.
Part of me was thinking during all those scenes, it's the zombie apocalypse. Shouldn't you be worried about more important things like your dad says to be worried about? Charles Dance is right here.
Frequently, Charles Dance is right. I remember when Bingham's going, when he's laying out the mathematics of it. People cannot procreate as quickly as zombies.
Yeah.
End of story. By the time you have, 9 months to make a baby and 18 months to grow a soldier, or 18 years to grow a soldier, zombies done it in one bite. Wickham. Not Bingham. Wickham. So, and I'm going, yeah. You don't have time for all of this gallantry and chivalry and martial law, guys. You need to be making babies. That's where we're at this point.
But that can't be Pride and Prejudice and Zombies then, without that element to it. So I understood the need for it there, but I had to push that part of my brain and tell it to shut up. That no, we need that because it's a mashup.
Now, having said all of that, one of the problems that I had trying to read the book is I really felt like there just simply weren't enough zombies in the Pride and Prejudice and Zombies. I really felt like the book it did a couple of moments, but it was still mostly Pride and Prejudice. I liked the movie better than what I remember reading from the book.
There's a lot of zombies in this.
There were a lot of zombies in it, and it kept things entertaining, but didn't, as you pointed out, Glenn, didn't feel shoehorned in.
Right.
Didn't feel like it was there just because, well, we haven't blown anything up or killed anybody in 15 minutes.
There was some bits that felt that way to me. Some of the exposition while they were fighting for no reason, training or whatever, felt like it was, well, we need some sort of action instead of two people talking to each other. And while as enjoyable as the Liz and Darcy fight was when they were having their big knockdown fight, it still felt like, well, we haven't had action in a while. We better put something in here.
See, I'll tell you,
They chose a good place for motivations.
I disagree because I think that it was very needed to convince me that these girls were warriors. That these girls grew up as
training
warriors.
bit, I was able to excuse it.
Even the fight, because
I'm convinced she's a warrior by that point.
In Prejudice, though, they have very heated arguments, very heated discussions. But when you've got two zombie fighting warriors, then you add that element in. I thought it was very natural, very organic. I think it worked there for me. I thought this is on every level shouldn't for me, but it did. Everything worked, and I was like, I was quite surprised. I really went into this movie going, I know I'm going to hate this, but I got to watch it to review it. And I really got to the end, and I thought that was quite enjoyable. What they did it right. They did everything about it right. Here's the other thing, and we've talked about how I'm real sensitive to the hyperviolence, and I didn't used to be, but I am now. It's couched in not gratuitous violence. It's couched in necessary violence. And I think what helps a little bit is the fact that they shot for the PG-13 rating. And I don't know if there's an R-rated version out there. I watched the PG-13.
This is the PG-13.
But they went for the PG-13 rating.
I didn't realize that.
And that worked because while they did everything they needed to stop zombies, you didn't have to have the Quentin Tarantino blood flying everywhere. And that worked.
So, for example,
very
when a
rarely
zombie gets...
you did see the two or three actual heads kind of just disappear and explode.
And you notice there's not a lot of blood.
So
it's just gone. The head's gone.
And it makes sense when it's a zombie because they're zombies. The blood's not flowing anyways. So anytime there's a zombie film where there's gratuitous blood, it always seems excessive to me and doesn't make sense.
I hadn't thought of that, Keith, but you're right.
That's why I'm okay with Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead also, because he gave a good rationale of they don't have feeling in their legs, so why wouldn't they run?
Right. That's true.
Anyway, sorry, what were you going to say?
No, this fixed a lot of the book for me, I guess, in that regard, that I felt that there was the right amount of zombies, and I agree with you. The first one, when the first head that explodes and just goes pow, and I kind of thought, oh, okay, we're going for that. But then later, as it progressed, I realized I didn't even know this was rated PG-13. But about the midway point, I began to feel, well, this is probably a PG-13 rating because it's not as... You
don't see most of the violence. It's on off-screen violence.
And there's still violence, but there's no gore.
Exactly. So, there is some gore. Let's give it credit where credit's due.
The nose melting.
Even just the look of some of them and missing eyes and things like that. But you can have a certain amount of gore as long as you're not shoving it in the viewer's face. As long as you're not getting gratuitous and everything. That's the problem with a lot of films now, is filmmakers feel like they've got to add some sort of shock value or some sort of... They just have to go really gratuitous with things, and you don't have to do a great, compelling action or horror. And a lot of the times, they were doing just as much chopping up zombies' heads, chopping off zombies' heads, doing all that without having to show it, and it still was just as effective.
It was just a sound effect, and it was off camera.
Everybody could do that. Films would be able to not have to go to the level that they go to. I know some people like that. I'm not faulting anybody for that, but I think that the reason why some of the hyper-violent films don't do well is because you're reaching a smaller audience than if you do it this way and go for a larger audience, which obviously it still didn't do well.
Well, I don't think that has anything to do with the violence.
I don't know what people didn't like about it. Like I said, I haven't read any of the reviews yet. I probably will eventually. But
just out of curiosity, did Holly watch this with you?
No. I watched this after she went to bed. I think probably now that I have watched it and thought, okay, this wasn't bad, she might appreciate it for the fact that they, as I did, they tried. They paralleled the story. And so she might, but I think she'll be put off by it because of her love for Pride and Prejudice. I think she'll be put off by dropping the zombie aspect, which maybe is what the review problem is.
That could be. I wonder if a lot of the review, maybe not the review problem, but the box office problem was people saw the trailers and thought, that looks ridiculous, and just didn't go see it.
I, for the life of me, cannot remember seeing a trailer of this. Maybe that helped. I really can't. I can't for the life of me remember seeing it.
What's sad is I watched last year around San Diego Comic-Con, I watched their panel, and I don't think I finished it because nobody on the panel, even Matt Smith was on the panel, and they kind of had some fun on it, but they were just kind of like, yeah, we made this movie. So maybe that was some of it. The people working on it weren't as enthused about it as they should have been.
It was kind of cool seeing Cersei and Tyrion Lannister show up and be good guys in a film.
Yeah.
So, I'm gonna. I finished the movie and I thought to myself, I think this is maybe in the same neighborhood, maybe a notch below, but close to Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter.
I was gonna say the same thing. It's not as enjoyable, but it's around. It's in the same ballpark.
That's okay.
There's just I don't know if it's the Pride and Prejudice aspect of it, but I didn't have as much fun watching it. It might be a probably better story than Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter, but my enjoyment level wasn't as high.
And I came to this show tonight thinking to myself, I'll bet Keith really liked this, and I'll bet Glenn didn't. I'm pleased, beyond pleased, that you had some fun with this, because that gives me hope that maybe there's some other things out there you might like.
Well, this did pique my interest in Abraham Lincoln.
Yes!
Vampire Hunter. Now, if I think the problem is, now I'll go into that with expectations of if it's as a well-balanced story as this, I'll be fine with it. I'm afraid it won't be. It'll be the gratuitous violence.
It is a little more hyper-violent.
It'll be we feel like we just shoved vampires into history for no reason at all.
I don't think that. I never thought that felt shoved in there either. They at least justified them.
And just to go on record, you should not raise your expectations for that film.
No.
Have them at the same level you had for these.
Don't worry. I'll keep it low.
It's a fun movie, and yes, I think you should watch it. But it is not, we're not talking Shawshank Redemption here.
It is a different director, so just so you know.
Yeah. Ooh, Shawshank Redemption and zombies.
One of the things
that's just it. I don't think you could do that. We've
No,
done vampires. We've done zombies. Let's see sea monsters. I mean, really, if you're going to stick with doing this kind of genre,
was it the same author who did
historical fantasy?
Yes.
Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter?
No, that is.
If we're gonna stay with that being a genre now of historical fantasy, because this is historical fiction, this is historical fantasy. If you're going to do historical fantasy, then let's change it up. I mean, I don't. If we run around and put zombies and everything, then that's going to cheapen every bit of that movie. If we go around throwing vampires and everything, it's going to cheapen every bit of that movie. And I mean historical context. I mean, there's every time you throw a rock, there's a vampire story at the end of it when it falls. But if you're going to do this as a genre, then just keep mixing up the monsters, keep mixing up the bad guys, keep mixing up the fantasy element of it.
It was the same guy
that wrote the book?
Abraham?
Yeah, book-wise.
Oh.
Really?
Well,
yeah, he wrote Abraham Lincoln Vampire
then,
Hunter.
you know what?
My
my encouragement's gone even more another notch higher now, to see the vampire movie. It just went up a slight notch more to see that. So.
I believe
coming soon, a special side trip where we break Glenn's 5-year moratorium on not watching that movie.
He did Pride and Prejudice and Zombies first, and then he did Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter.
And then he did the Sea Monsters.
I don't know if he did the Sea Monsters.
Maybe he did. Really? I know that there is a book. I thought it was the same author.
Book. It is a different author.
It's a different author. Okay. So the publisher apparently was behind that, going, well, now that we've had this, we need more Jane Austen.
Yeah.
But I don't think they did any more after that.
I don't think so either.
So I'll bet the second one didn't sell as well.
Probably.
It's all about money.
But he did write the Sense and Sensibility Sea Monsters. Wrote a numerous book in the worst case scenario. Have you seen those books? Where it's a survivor's guide for the worst case scenario. They're really funny.
I have one of those. I got one in Loot Crate one time.
Yeah, so he wrote a couple of those.
Okay.
The guy that wrote Sea Monsters, not this guy.
Yeah.
What is this guy's name? We should
Seth
probably...
Graham Smith.
Yeah, that guy.
He has continued the trend. Unholy Night depicts Balthazar, Gaspar, and Malachor, the Magi of the popular tradition, as criminals who ultimately visit the infant Jesus, and other people appear as supporting characters. So it's kind of similar, but a different twist. Not as monsters, but criminals.
Not as fantastical.
See, I like the way they're portrayed in Lamb.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, so let's get to
Let's
the
go
meat
back
of
to
it.
Pride and Prejudice and Zombies.
Let's talk about Matt Smith.
Well, before we get there,
before we get there,
we're still
I
okay.
wanna
did anybody go 20 minutes into this going, oh no,
Yes.
Matt Smith's not in this much?
He's on the cover, like, you know.
I tell you, got
but
worried,
I saw the
though.
credits and I saw with Matt Smith.
Yeah.
and
I
then
got worried
with Charles
there.
Dance. I'm like, oh no.
I got worried. I thought, oh no. Matt Smith, fortunately, was in it much more than Charles Dance was in it.
Yeah,
I missed Lena Headey in the credits.
I didn't see that either.
And it wasn't until I saw this gal with the black eye patch and I went, she looks familiar. And then she started talking, and I still couldn't tell. And then she started talking, and I was like,
It's so weird to hear
that
see her with her
Cersei?
natural hair color.
is that Cersei? And I listened a little longer, and then pretty soon the face started taking familiarity, and I went, it is her.
I saw her name in the credits.
I kept waiting for Jamie to show up.
Oh, it's there on the cover too.
Oh, sure enough, yeah. Well,
Charles Dance is.
I rented this online, so I didn't see
Yeah.
the cover of it.
Yeah, 20 minutes in, no Matt Smith. I was like, uh-oh. Now Glenn's really mad. But then Matt Smith showed up, and it kind of became the Parson Collins show.
He stole
He did.
every
30 minutes.
single scene he was in.
But yeah. Well, he steals a good chunk of the center of the film
yes.
for the most part, but he is still seen. He's not in as much later,
No,
but he is still
but he's still
seen stealing
yeah.
each time that he's there. Yeah,
Like the wedding.
yeah. The way-
He's the comic relief of this movie.
And the interesting thing is, his character when he's first introduced, he shows up for dinner, and his character's a little unnerving at first because I didn't recall the Parsons character right away in the version I had seen of Pride and Prejudice, and it wasn't until he started trying to court Elizabeth. That I went, oh wait, that's that character, because it's quite different in the movie. But it wasn't until then that I pieced together, okay, this is who this guy is. And once I got past who he was supposed to be, then his quirkiness started coming out. And I was like, oh gosh, no, this is really, really fun. I really like this guy.
I don't know if it's because it was Matt Smith, but as soon as he showed up and started talking about wanting to court somebody, I just could not take him seriously. I don't know if that was just the acting choice or if that was because it's Matt Smith.
It was almost the moments that Matt Smith is awkward as the Doctor.
Yeah.
It was all of those moments all strung together.
You even saw him trying to keep down the hand movements.
Yes.
trying to almost clasp his hands and keep them from doing the waving that he normally does as the Doctor.
Right.
Don't get me wrong, a lot of fun, and Matt Smith's probably the best thing in this movie.
I would agree.
He's phenomenal. He's
Well,
really, really great.
I tell you,
But it's not a great stretch of acting.
No, it's not.
Because
No,
it's Matt
it's
Smith not being the Doctor. Of course, he's
It's
going to be
being himself.
Yeah, it's Matt Smith's going to show up and he's going to be foppish and awkward, and yeah,
It was very foppish and very awkward.
His foppish and awkwardness just grows exponentially.
It does. It continues to ramp
Gets to that dance, and it's, oh man, that's almost a train wreck to watch.
when he shows up for dinner, and I'll be honest, my attention.
He's got his eye on the older sister first.
Yeah. Well, my attention may have flagged for just a moment. Like, I may have started to close my eyes for just a second. And then he showed up and started to talk. And I snapped open because I recognized him instantly. And then I went, oh, he's that character. Having read this part of the book, I've read up to this point, and I went, well, of course he's going to play that character. Who else would he have played? So he goes from that awkwardness to the let's go traipse off through the woods and the trap with the carriage overturned and the women are protecting him. And he's just Matt Smith. He's just... I didn't know that zombies had the acuity to be able to set traps like that. And then off he goes.
Well, it's a good.
And then he gets the great zombie aristocrat line, doesn't he?
Yeah. With next he'll be running for parliament.
Yeah, that was it.
Well, the back to the developing of the story. Those comments seed the movie along too.
Yeah, it does.
Just because you realize that there's more
there's
going on, and we
more,
don't have just dumb zombies that are going around just looking for brains. They're getting smart. They're getting.
And that was one of the things
they're getting really dangerous.
Yeah, that's one of the things I really liked about the movie overall was that aspect of it.
Well, and the fact that this is the first time I've ever seen zombies done in the Revelation, the biblical Revelation element of the four horsemen. What was the guy's name that was helping him? The bad guy, the main guy,
Wickham.
Yes.
Wickham as the Antichrist. I mean, that just the parallels to that storytelling too is very cleverly done. But yes, Matt Smith. Wow.
And when he did first show up, I started taking him seriously. It was the moment when
you're supposed to take him seriously.
It's the moment where he
into that quirkiness really well.
Realizes, oh, that's not the one I want. Oh, all right, and does the transition.
Are you sure she's not available? She's engaged.
I'm afraid she's spoken for. Oh,
are you sure?
Are you sure?
Well, she is almost as fair.
Well, I like how Charles Dance, when the girls are looking through the peephole into the room where he's standing in there waiting to be brought in, and the girls are chittering and laughing and giggling and stuff, and Charles Dance says, "That's the man that when I'm gone he's looking over the merchandise because this is the man when I'm gone he's going to be the heir because the line has to have a male heir and this is going to be it."
He's the one that will throw all of you out.
Yes, he's going to be the one that throws you out.
Charles Dance was wonderful too. Just as a side note, I mean,
yeah, he was.
He's Charles Dance, but I mean, he was just.
And then when he's sitting there and. He's trying Wiccan is trying to give the Antichrist spiel. He's just commenting while he's eating the entire time.
Oh, at the table with Cersei. I can't remember the lady's name. Lady
Catherine.
Lady Catherine.
He's just constantly stuffing his face the entire time. Locust, yeah, sure.
Because Lizzie has gotten him into an audience with her, which I thought was cleverly done too. I'll go under one condition. Then you find out the condition is that he gets to come.
Watching him during that dinner scene, he's so... I can't say slimy necessarily because that kind of implies a backbone.
He does come across a little bit slimy because he has that last line that's to be taken seriously.
Yeah, but he just... Anything that Lady Catherine says, he hangs on and
agrees with.
And he's very yes man, very, and then anything that Wickham says, he undercuts and like, oh yeah, don't be preposterous, don't be this, and well, it's the revelation of the blah blah blah, and he's just, and you want to go, wow, you're just so slimy and oily in this, but that almost implies that there's a backbone to his character, and there isn't one.
So. I was kind of confused by why he was there. Is that his aunt too? Because they talked about when they were in the village and they first meet Wickham, and they're going to see somebody. Who was that? Because they were going to take what's her face and to make sure she was to be okay.
I think the line was dropped because I don't remember them actually hearing it in the movie. In the book, he is a new parsonage. Whatever the Glenn, what's the term for when a new parson arrives? The take over the parish or
well, he'd be the new parsons for the parish. parsonage is where they live.
Well, okay, his parsonage, where he lives,
Yeah.
his property butts up against Lady Catherine's.
Yes.
So he only really knows her by proxy.
Okay, so he was actually going to go visit his aunt to get the approval, or his mother, or whoever.
Right. That's how I understand it.
Okay.
Different people. But because he is the new Parsons, and because he lives next door to Lady Catherine extended him the courtesy of, you should come around to tea sometime. And because he is who he is, he immediately took her up on it.
Okay.
Like, oh, how's later this afternoon?
Patron Collins is what he kept correcting everybody.
It is patron?
Yeah, it is patron.
Even though he is a parson.
Well, yes, because parson is the title. Patron because he's a father. The equivalent of a father. He's not.
Okay.
He's a priest, but he's not a Catholic priest. So he's a patron. That would be basically head of the parsonage or head of the parish. I knew because they kept saying he was the Parsons. They kept calling him that he was saying that was his title or that was his position. But he kept correcting people to say Patron Collins when they'd say Mr. Collins. It's Patron Collins.
Yeah, that's right. And his line of, "Oh, fuddle."
He had a lot of great little, and I can't remember what they all were, but that was one of them. But he had a lot of great little.
Did you happen to notice this bonus feature?
Yes, I watched it.
Did you watch it?
Yeah.
Is it good? I didn't see it on there.
It's great. It's mostly him eating.
You want to let everybody else in?
The bonus feature is called Mr. Collins' Line-O-Rama.
Did they just string all the lines together? And
It's some that were deleted, too.
Oh.
So it's even better. And alternate takes of some of the
should watch
lines.
that.
So
I don't think-
after
I
we
think
get done recording, we'll have to go pop this in
Okay,
and watch
good,
that. Because
my,
we're definitely worth watching.
I think my rental has run out now. So
I thought it was the gag reel at first, and I was kind of disappointed. And then I realized, oh, wait, no, it's probably there. Because I remember hearing about it when the DVD was coming out and watched a clip of it. And this is even better. This is even longer and better.
was there anything else to say about the film or Matt Smith's performance within?
The film is worth watching. The film is worth watching for Matt Smith.
Yes.
I'm very pleased that we have a Beyond the Doctor that definitively showcases why we wanted to do Beyond the Doctors.
It didn't really show us him stretching his acting
range,
but neither would have. Unfortunately, he's hardly in Terminator Genesis.
And he's hardly in Lost River.
Lost River. So, yeah.
And Womb is too disturbing to watch a second time.
I still want to see that thing.
And from what I remember, he's not in that a lot either.
Yeah, so...
He kind of bookends it.
Eventually, he'll get something, I suppose, that'll showcase his acting.
We will. The Crown.
Oh, right, yes.
Which looks phenomenal, and I'm not a fan of that sort of thing. So, do you know about that?
I had no idea about
It's about Queen Elizabeth II, right? The current queen?
Yes.
And her kind of rise to power.
Yes.
And he plays... Hold on.
Okay, forgive me. First of all, forgive me, all of our English listeners, for my stupidity and not knowing this kind of thing. Being that Queen Elizabeth is a queen,
so it's her.
She was in line somewhere for the throne, right?
Okay. Right, because it was her
is there
father
really a rise to
Her
power?
father became king because his brother abdicated the throne. Her uncle was the heir in the line, and I forget the king's name. But her father, who was king...
Colin Firth.
Yeah, her father, who was king... help me out, Keith. Do you remember
King
Edward?
Edward? Yeah,
Edward.
Edward's a good
was
bet.
Father. He did not sire a son, but at some point, I don't know if it took a parliamentary...
King George.
Okay.
George would have been a second bet.
And because he didn't sire any male heirs, there's something along the line, they changed that so that women could take the throne.
Right.
And so that's actually why her husband is not King Edward. Her husband's Edward, right?
Right.
He's not King Edward, he's Prince Edward. Because he cannot hold the title of king. Now when Prince Charles, her son, when she passes, when Prince Charles takes the throne and takes the crown, he will become King Charles, the whatever number he is. So that's how that works out. But she was.
So is there really a rise to power at this point?
In a sense, because they're fighting We'll just have to watch the trailer because it's not out yet, so I can't really state
Okay.
this for certain.
It's probably the getting the
switching to a woman being able to be a power.
Now,
And he plays,
again, we've had queens before. We
Right.
had the first Queen Elizabeth was a queen, Mary Queen of Scots. So that all had been changed in the lineage
And
at some point prior to her.
the trailer makes it look like it's a lot of her trying to find her legs as queen, struggling to be the queen and to be
because there's is the crown the one where it's about the night that she sneaks. There's another movie I think also coming out that it's about the night that there's this sort of quasi legend that she snuck out one night and went partying with her sister or her cousin or something, and it's this notorious story about her that I know very little about, so I shouldn't be talking. But there's a movie that is centered around that and that night as well, of her going out, sneaking out of Buckingham Palace, and she's not supposed to. She's supposed to, stay there, be guarded at all times whenever she goes out. There's
that might
protocols.
be included in that, but
I think this is a movie. I think this is a movie.
It's
in
a
itself,
series.
but,
It's 10 episodes.
Yeah.
On Netflix.
Okay.
Yeah. And anyway, Matt Smith is playing Philip.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Her husband then.
Yeah.
Okay. Prince Philip.
So it follows a 25-year-old newlywed faced with the daunting prospect of leading the world's most famous monarchy while forging relationships with legendary Prime Minister Winston Churchill, etc., etc.
Okay.
It looks really good,
Yeah, it sounds
and not just because
fascinating.
Matt Smith's in it.
It sounds fascinating. Not to mention it. While it's still historical fiction, it sort of helps you understand the lineage. I think that's one of the things I got out of the King's Speech was
I had to keep asking Sarah how that worked.
understanding the fact, because I can't remember the brother's name that was originally. Was that George?
I'm trying to find.
Well, who was her father? Was
Her father was George.
So his brother, who advocated, the reason he advocated the throne basically is because he had fallen in love with an American woman and he couldn't marry her as king, so he basically gave up the throne for her.
Are they still together?
Who?
George and the American woman.
Edward
I
was
think
the
they're
brother.
dead. I think they've passed.
But they were together.
I don't know if they lived happily ever after or not. I don't know. It didn't go on beyond
that's a movie I would want to see.
Did it work out? Did you give up the crown? There were other. He didn't. He never wanted to. I mean, from the impression you get, he never wanted to be king either. And it was thrust upon him. He knew that the problem was George would have made a better king, and he knew it. But the problem was George couldn't talk. He couldn't speak correctly, and so everybody also feared that he would not come across as a good king because he had this speech impediment. And so,
And Edward was a bit more of a partier. The impression I got from
yes.
the King's Speech.
Oh yeah, very much so from that movie.
It was a good movie. I really liked it.
So yeah. Anyway, we have completely diverged, but we are going to steer right back and say I think we've all given at least 2 thumbs up.
Yes.
Yes.
Maybe not as enthusiastic, but 2 thumbs up for this film.
It's fun.
And Matt's portrayal. Sean, what we got coming up on the schedule?
Well, coming up on the schedule next week for Friday Night Who, which of course is our weekly Doctor Who tweet along. You can join us every Friday at midnight, and we are going to do Gridlock with David Tennant, which is the kickoff for our Lost in Time discussion on the Macra Terror, which we will be reviewing the following week and covering the novelization and the audio recon.
No, we're going to do the loose cannon video reconstruction.
The video reconstruction.
Even if it's just still pictures,
audio.
it's still a video. It's visual.
And that'll...
Them pictures don't move, but it's visual.
It's a flip book. Then we will... that's part of our adversary archive on the Macra. So that is next week, and we are finalizing the schedule, previous to the show and probably a little bit afterwards. But you may want to go out and find a copy of In the Loop with Peter Capaldi, as we may go ahead and jump right back into our next and final Beyond the Doctor the following week. Because we'll be reviewing it before we've watched it if we do it the other way. That doesn't work.
No, we don't do that. And I could only review based on what I know about it, because I've held off on that one, because I watched the thick of it, but I haven't watched In the Loop, which it's my understanding that you don't have to have watched the thick of it.
Well, good, because I haven't watched any of the in the thick of it. But.
I might add to the appreciation of it, but it's its own story. So
So that, as they say, is that. Then some prizes coming up later, which we'll finalize.
We will, when we get closer to those, we'll let you in on those as well. All right, well, is there anything else we need to tackle? Obviously, if you want to continue to support this show, you can support us on Patreon. There is a link on the right-hand side of our page, travelingthevortex.com. Click there. It'll take you to our Patreon page where you can support us. And again, if you are already supporting us, we appreciate it. And if you go to travelingthevortex.com and you want to support us in other ways, there are also click-through links on the right-hand side of the page for different stores and products, and a portion of those proceeds go to us as well. All right, is that going to do it?
Go get your tickets for Time Eddy. Use that discount code Vortex.
Go get your discount on your Lethbridge Stewart stuff. Use that discount code
Epic LS30.
There you go. Good job, Keith.
From memory.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for this week. Until next week, I'm Glenn.
I'm Sean.
I'm Keith.
Cheers.
Good night, everybody.
Be seeing ya.
You have been listening to Traveling the Vortex. Doctor Who and all of its associated programs are owned and trademarked by the BBC. No infringement is intended or implied.